Good morning, this is Rich Nelson with Allendale with a special update here regarding USDA's monthly supply demand report. Today is December 10th of 2014. Now, normally as far as this December monthly supply demand report, USDA traditionally does not make any changes to corn or soybean production. Those are reserved for the January update here, and certainly they kept that pace the same. No changes were made this month, this time around either here. So as far as corn, we're still looking at a very large 14.4 billion bushel production here. Now across USDA's changes, normally this is only one of minor changes for demand. For corn, of course, we're looking at feed residual. And this one, we normally don't see changes until the January report either. And that's where they have that quarterly grain stocks, which gives them implied usage for the first quarter. After that, they'll start making feed residual changes here. So no changes on feed residual. In terms of the other categories, exports, also no change for corn there either. No change for ethanol. USDA did lower one small category, which is normally not talked about, what we call other industrial, meaning we, of course, have our industrial use of corn, which is mainly ethanol, and then you have your other side issues like high fructose corn syrup, corn for food, for canning and food, and those other issues here. So USDA took 10 million bushels out of that demand category, and it really, or I should say, they added 10 million bushels to that demand category, and therefore lowered ending stocks from 2.008 last month to 1.998. Now, looking across as far as the world numbers to speak of here, no real changes we can really get too excited about here. They did lower Argentina's production by 1 million tons, from 23 million tons last month down to 22. Seems very reasonable given our recent production problems as far as the potential plantings and those issues you speak of as well. As far as the Brazilian corn crop, they actually left that unchanged at 75 million tons. So as far as this goes, we're still looking at very large supplies for both the U.S. as well as South America. Now, over on the trades focus, probably for this report, it was on soybeans. USDA did lower ending stocks pretty darn well, from 450 million bushels down to 410. The average guess was only for a 427. So they've lowered ending stocks more than people were expecting. And as far as the categories, the only change that they made those numbers work out from was with exports. They increased exports by about 40 million bushels. At this point, that's probably quite a bit more than trade was expecting, and now the onus is on USDA to more or less prove that their very aggressive export pace will be on target here. So as far as this goes, it certainly was a bullish sounding number, but as I said before, the trade's most likely a little skeptical of this more than anything else here. Looking as far as world on soybeans, Argentina as well as Brazil were both left unchanged from their November estimates here. No changes to speak of here, of course, for China, as well as any of the others on the main supply-demand balance sheet here. One thing I will look at as far as numbers I want to point out, Brazilian exports were lowered 0.7 million tons, so 700,000 tons, reflecting likely USDA's movement towards higher U.S. exports. Over on the wheat side of things here, the only major change there, 644 million ending stocks last month, now 654. So that increase that USDA made actually came from an increase in imports expected for the U.S. of about 10 million bushels here. The trade was expecting that exact 654 as well. So no changes as far as that goes, according to the trade's expectations. Over on the wheat production things here, we were looking, of course, across Argentina, Australia, a lot of discussions here regarding Russia, Kazakh, as well as Ukraine numbers. No changes at all for wheat production in those areas. The only one which we did see some movement from was actually with Canada. They went from 27.5 million tons last month to now 29.3. So overall, some pretty good sized crops here, just got a little bit bigger according to USDA's mind. So as a whole for the grain side of things here, yes, USDA did give us a lower ending stock number for soybeans, but it's very likely the trade will now be skeptical of us actually reaching that number here. Pretty darn aggressive according to the pace that we expect in the coming few months. Keep in mind, China's crush margin has moved to a sharp deficit, a sharp loss now, so their need to buy new soybeans is actually quite a bit lessened than just maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago here. Over on the meats, we can also look for some sign of direction. USDA did lower the size of its 2014 beef production forecast by 205 million bushels. For the new crop 2015 numbers, they actually left those relatively unchanged. We're now looking for a 2.4% decline in 2015 beef production. As far as pork, the numbers were a little bearish. They added 130 million bushels to the 2014 pork production forecast. They left 2015 unchanged. At current rate, they're looking for a 3.6% increase over 2014 for pork production. So big picture numbers, like I said, the numbers sounded a little bullish here this morning with the soybeans being lower than expected, but very likely the trade's not going to buy into that one here too much. In terms of meats, as I said before, the numbers may be sounding a little bullish as far as the beef numbers because they did lower this year's forecast. As far as pork, numbers are a little bearish. They did increase the size of 2014 pork production. If you have any questions about this report, markets, or marketing in general, feel free to give Allendale a call here. Our number is 1-800-262-7538.